Hello everyone, my name is Hirsch from the LMU Munich and I'm presenting on behalf of my co-authors Christina Schneegass, Welsch and Andreas Butz our paper To See or Not to See, Exploring Inattentional Blindness for the Design of Unobtrusive Interfaces in Shared Public Places. One of the main challenges in designing for public places is that they are shared by a multitude of potential users, direct and indirect. Thus, prior work already stated that the content should only be presented to direct interested users but stay invisible for others to prevent interruptions. It led us to the question of how can we design interfaces to be visible for direct user groups but remain easy to ignore by others or when not needed. Based on this, we looked into concepts of inattentional blindness, the phenomenon of being perceptually blind to something that is in focus but irrelevant to the task at hand. We wanted to explore its potential to support the aforementioned problem if considered during the design process and in the spatial setup. We developed a hypothesis that indirect users involved in a specific task are less likely to notice public interfaces not relevant to their task. They will notice interfaces less frequently than direct users to whose task the interfaces are relevant. However, to approach this, we first needed to identify design strategies that exploit inattentional blindness from an interactive design perspective. We decided to conduct a structured literature study in the ACM Guide to Computing Literature using a keyword search in inattentional blindness. The extracted data sample included 231 publications, of which we reviewed 135 after the cleaning process. We also looked into inattentional deafness at the beginning, however the search resulted in 4 publications only, of which 2 were written in another language than English, hence we decided to exclude this concept from our further analysis. In turn, we scored all 135 papers according to 6 guiding questions. How was IB defined in the work? How was the application context? Was it evaluated? And if yes, how was it measured? What were the reasons for looking into inattentional blindness? Does this work propose strategies to overcome its effects? And does this work propose a system, tool, or concept to exploit inattentional blindness? We scored each category from 0 to 5, depending on how strongly the respective point was presented in the prior work. Due to time limits, we will not go into more details of the literature study results, but are happy to refer to our paper at this point. To test the different kind of strategies, we conducted a field study at a historical place of daily use that is visited for multiple reasons, such as exploring the historic architecture and history, having a break, going for an event, or because people just live there. Considering these observed user profiles, we created 4 study profiles, 2 for our control group to notice our interfaces, which you can see here on the list, and 2 for our test groups to ignore our interfaces and exploit inattentional blindness. 40 participants took part in our study, 10 for each profile. Participants were asked to look around the place and take pictures of everything related to their task. Once they were done, we asked them to complete a questionnaire and to also rate our interfaces independently if they had noticed them before or not. Our interface selection included 3 items that were already built into the place, 2 added by us. The screen, the flagstone, and the sign were the already embedded interfaces. The QR code and the light concrete box were added by us. The light concrete box displayed the word info, and the scanned QR code guided participants to the Place Museum's website with further information about the location. Our results confirmed our hypothesis. The direct user group noticed the objects in 73% of cases, whereas the indirect or our test group only noticed them in 10%. The table on the right shows more details, revealing that participants with profile A, the tourist profile, reported about 90% of times on the objects, and in comparison only 4% of profile D, which was the event manager profile. Profile B and C counterbalanced our results, which still led to the confirmation of our hypothesis. On interface level, we saw the biggest and significant rating differences for the screen and the QR code to the questions how recognizable, easy to ignore, and perceivable the objects were. We split the perceivable questions into how perceivable the object was as an interface itself and within the environment. In participants' qualitative feedback, they also stated that they partly didn't recognize the screen as such or as a possibility to receive further information, and that it would also not be as suitable for the location as it was too technological. Regarding the QR code, participants noted that they are familiar with it as an information carrier, and thus it was easily identified as an interface. Unfortunately, we cannot go into more detail, but summarizing the main findings of our paper, we can say that inattentional blindness varies for direct and indirect users and can thus be exploited for public interface design. Further, comparing the scores and the qualitative feedback, the top-down perception seems to have a stronger influence in the outer context on the perception than bottom-up. Lastly, perceptual psychology concepts support bridging the gap between the perception of direct and indirect user needs and how we can design for them. So concluding everything, inattentional blindness can be exploited to design explicit yet unobtrusive interfaces in shared public environments. Yet there is a need to develop further guidelines, tools and methodologies to make it measurable and to turn it into clear and usable design guidelines. Thank you very much, and I'm looking forward to your